Welcome back. All right, Panic Index, 4 days out from Christmas, and only a couple days out from the Christmas break. So why not kind of add a little bit of a Christmas theme to the proceedings, including me wearing a shirt that my wife made for me a few years back. And it is, of course, Christmas themed, Doctor Who themed as well, so you get two for the price of one right there. So at the top is your happiness, and there's your Merry Christmas. At the bottom you have your panic or lump of coal, as I've written here. And here, coal to a diamond with a question mark, meaning for teams that are at the bottom but waiting for the draft, you never know. That draft, if you win that lottery, could be absolutely fantastic. So, of course, this line here, teams below it, it's a measure of panic getting close to here. This here is Kevin Malone from The Office, and it says, here, see, I have very little patience for stupidity. And so that's something that it feels like we're seeing more and more of right now from fans, along the lines of not liking the way things are going with management at this point in time. So I wanted to have that one on the board. Had that for a while, and I thought, yeah, that's where that should belong. All right, so this is a random-ish order in that I kind of shuffled them. Made sure I had every team and shuffled them up. So we're starting with Detroit. It is tough to say with Detroit, but I'm going to say this. Their recent struggles, I think, have put it a little bit below the line. And I just mean a little bit, just a bit. In that hopes for making the playoffs look like they're starting to fade a bit for Detroit. And this is a year where Wings fans were really hoping for that breakthrough, and they've won 2 of their last 10. But there is, of course, the fact that fans understand it's a young team. They're going to get better. And it's another really good draft this year. So if they end up with a pretty good draft pick, I don't think they're going to complain. Yzerman's got a plan that's going to work. It's just going to take some time. And so I put them a little bit below the line because of their play lately, but nowhere near the lump of coal area where Kevin Malone has no patience for stupidity. San Jose. I'm going to put San Jose down here. Now, I understand that fans may very well be already looking ahead to Bedard, which is fine. But the direction of the team and just how poor the defense is. Defensive coverage is definitely optional for San Jose, and it feels like they're saying, nah, we're good. So for San Jose, this is a team that doesn't have a ton of young talent in the lineup. There's not a ton of top-notch prospects coming in. There are a few, but they could really use an infusion of young talent, and they're a team that could absolutely use a Connor Bedard type. Fantilli they'd be happy with. Michkov they'd be happy with. But yeah, San Jose I have down here right next to Malone. Tampa Bay, I don't see any reason why Tampa Bay fans wouldn't be happy. I'm not going to put them at the top of happy. I mean, things are going pretty well. They lost that game last night. They're playing again tonight as well. We'll see how tonight's game goes. But yeah, no reason not to have Tampa up near the happy face there, which denotes overall general feeling of happiness. Toronto fans, I think, are pretty darn happy. So I'm going to put them right here, right with the Merry Christmas. There you go. Just right there with it. Toronto Maple Leafs, I think things are pretty happy. Even the happy face is looking at the Maple Leafs logo. I'm going to wipe out the Merry Christmas before this is over, isn't it? Aren't I? Well, that happens. So Toronto I'm putting at the very top. Pretty good run for Toronto this year thus far. And no reason not to have them in the top row. So there's Toronto in the top row. Next up is Vancouver. A lump of coal for Vancouver. The lack of idea of what's going on, what's going to happen. Now, I understand from management's perspective, Vancouver's not far enough out of the race in order to do a teardown and all that. And it is tough to make trades. But are they going to get in? There hasn't been enough consistency for me to believe the team's going to get into the playoffs. They're going to need to find that. And every time it looks like they're getting close, they have a couple of really bad games. So with that being said, I do have Vancouver in the lump of coal category. I would love to have them over here, but I need to hear from management that they've decided they're going to tear things down, move it over here, and then see who stays and who goes, and then we can decide on other things from there. Vegas, with the home record being as it is tough not to have them down here with Detroit. And again, this is just below the line. I don't think there's a reason for a full-out panic when a team is first in their division. I don't think that's necessary. But Vegas is not playing like Vegas at home. And this is something that they need to work on, they need to fix. And so I'm going to put them below the line. I think that's the lowest they've been on a panic index this season. And we'll see if they stay there. My guess is they get it together at home, probably starting with tonight against Arizona. The Capitals. Caps fans have to be pretty happy. I'm going to put them right on that second line because you're going to be getting Wilson back soon. Backstrom's coming back. Malenstein looks like he's coming back pretty soon too. And so the Caps, who've been absolutely ravaged by injuries, they're getting healthier, and that's a great thing. And they're already playing well. So as long as we don't see some kind of a drop off from them, things are looking pretty good for Washington. Edmonton's definitely in the panic side. I'm not going to have them in full blown panic because they're in a playoff spot. They're not really in a position where they're likely to not make the playoffs. The problem is for Edmonton, this team that they've put together as is playing right now, and I did the long video on it today, so I don't want to get too much into it now because I feel like I already said a lot of things in that video. But is this team built to win? And how long is it going to be before we start looking at Draisaitl and McDavid and wondering, do they stay? And I understand that may seem kind of crazy, but when you've got a talent like McDavid, you want to win. You want to convince him to stick around. Florida has to be in the panic stage too. I've been waiting for Florida to put it together, and I'm starting to think it may not happen. They've been one up, one down all year. And it's interesting because before the last couple of seasons, this was kind of how Florida was. So the past 2 years before this one, Florida was really quite good in the regular season, excellent records. Before that, though, some middling results. They would just miss the playoffs. I would predict them to make the playoffs, and they'd miss, that kind of thing. And it feels like that Florida team's kind of back. So there are a lot of concerns if you're a Florida fan right now, I would think. And so, I would put them on the low side. L.A., depends on the day. I'm going to put them above the line just a little bit because they've had a couple of victories lately. But consistency within the game, consistency from game to game, playing up to the really strong opponents and then seemingly playing down to the lesser opponents has been a problem for LA recently. And so maybe that win over Anaheim last night helps get them out of that. But LA, I'm going to put them above the line because I don't think they're panicked, but not as far above the line as they might have been. Minnesota, I got to put them on the same line as Toronto. I mean, they have the Christmas colors right there in their logo, so that's one thing. But also, Kaprizov, the Christmas gift that keeps on giving. Kaprizov's been fantastic, and they've got a really solid team built around him as well. I like that bottom six. That bottom six forward group is quite good. I've been a fan of Dewar for a while now. And so, I think this is a team that is going to fly under the radar a bit because it is Minnesota. They haven't had a run in the playoffs in quite some time. But, I like Minnesota right now. Montreal, I really think, and I might get some flack on this one, I think Montreal fans at this point are okay. And I'm saying that despite Montreal's drop in their play recently and falling a bit out of the potential contention for a playoff spot. I think it's okay. I think that while fans might be disappointed at the way some parts of the team are playing or the way certain things are going, this is all part of the process, and this is how things work when you're in a rebuild. So I don't think Montreal fans are upset. I think they're right here with the dude. Everything's fine. Going to turn Cole into a diamond. You're going to draft first overall, and then you're going to have Slafkovsky playing along with Bedard, and then you profit from there. And Slafkovsky's look good. As much as people said, he won't play. I saw during the summer people saying he won't play in the NHL, and then, he's not ready. He's going to have to go back to Europe. And he's a regular. Even at the start of the year, it was, he's not going to stay. He's still there. So, for Montreal, they're going through their growing pains, but they're fun to watch most times too. Nashville, I'm going to put them right here with Detroit and Vegas. Consistency being an issue with them too. And getting above 500, staying above 500, something that we're seeing some teams go through right now, and Nashville's definitely one of them. And they want to stay in the hunt because you want to make the playoffs if you're Nashville after signing Forsberg to a long-term extension. In their best interests, I would think, to get things going as soon as possible. So that's Nashville. New Jersey's a tough one. They were first place the whole way through, and then last night they dropped. I'm going to put New Jersey a little bit above the line. I don't think there needs to be a panic necessarily. Maybe some concern. There could very well be some concern with New Jersey. and with their fans as well. But I don't want to overreact to this either, because yeah, it's a rough patch, but they had a fantastic patch before the rough patch, which means they're still in the playoffs. So if this continues this way, then 2 weeks from now, the next panic index, they'll be well below the line. I don't think they belong below the line yet. The New York Islanders, I'm going to put them in the same spot as New Jersey. Things are going well at points. There's been some losses here and there as well. What you get with the New York Islanders from one night to the next, anybody's guess. They beat Vegas. They lose against an undermanned Colorado team after losing against Arizona as well. But again, they're in a playoff spot, and they look like a pretty good bet to make it in. That being said, they could end up below the line the next time I do this as well. A lot of teams right near the line for me right now. New York Rangers. Rangers have had a pretty good past few weeks. And even though they lost against Pittsburgh last night, they played well. And so for the New York Rangers, I don't see any reason not to have the Rangers up near the top. Second line, not quite at the top, but yeah, things are going pretty well for the Rangers. No reason to think that there's a need for concern at this point. Ottawa. So for Ottawa, I'm going to put Ottawa down here with the Oilers in Florida. Underperforming. Absolutely underperforming. Finally got back to 500 and then fell right back again. And it does feel like they're having a really hard time putting this together. I'd like to see Ottawa put it together, obviously, as somebody who's been rooting for them this year. But I'm starting to lose faith because there are 8 really good teams in the East, and there are going to be a couple of really good teams that miss the playoffs in the East. So if Ottawa's going to get in the hunt, they better do it quickly because, yeah, they're going to end up with so many points between themselves and the playoffs and so many teams to jump over to get to the playoffs that it just becomes a moot point. For Philadelphia, well, they go right here next to Montreal, right? Hoping that at the end of this season, there's some kind of a rainbow waiting for them, and that they have Connor Bedard waiting at the foot of that rainbow and can move on from there. It's been a rough year for John Tortorella. I think Tortorella really believed that he might be able to turn this around, and early season results showed that he might be able to, but it wasn't sustainable. And so as frustrating as it is for him, I think it's kind of predictable as well. When we just look at how they played last year and some of the deficiencies they had with the lineup coming into this season. Pittsburgh, right here. Pittsburgh absolutely belongs in the top row. Their logo's too long for me to put it right there. But yeah, Pittsburgh's had an amazing run. They did lose that game against Carolina, but overall, really, really solid run. No reason to be concerned if you're a Pens fan right now, obviously. And they're firing on all cylinders. They don't have a cylinder. The only cylinder in the league right now plays in Columbus. I swear I'm awake. But, yeah, Pittsburgh goes in the top row. St. Louis, well, what week is it, right? So St. Louis, I'm going to put them, you know what, I'm going to put them down here. I'm going to put them down here. St. Louis, I think that it's been way too much in the ways of setbacks. Although, you know, this road trip hasn't been that bad. They lost in Seattle. I'm being too hard on them, aren't I? Yeah, they belong on that row there. So a little bit below the panic line. Not that far below the panic line. There are concerns with St. Louis. I can't believe I put them down there. Please forgive me for Christmas, St. Louis fans. Yeah, I'll put them a little bit below the line. You guys can let me know if you're a Blues fan where you think they actually belong. But I'm going to put them a little bit below because they're below the playoff line. And again, that consistency game in and game out has been an issue. And so, yeah, we'll see. Seattle. I'm going to put Seattle in their own category right here. So they've won their last couple of games. They are still performing above what was expected of them this season. And that's after some losses that made it look like maybe their record wasn't sustainable. But they've got a couple of wins, and there's no pressure on Seattle. If they end up missing the playoffs, they miss the playoffs. But they're definitely going to get more points than they had last year. There's a lot of upside there. And I think if you're a free agent next summer and you look at how this team's played and how this team's been coached, they might be an interesting destination, and they will have some cap space to pick some guys up. So don't be surprised if Seattle becomes an interesting destination for players, if only for the fact that Seattle's a team that has cap space but is not in the midst of a rebuild, right? So Seattle's going to be interesting to watch, but I don't see any reason to have them that close to the line or that close to the euphoric happiness either. Winnipeg, I'm going to put right here, same line as Tampa Bay. Washington and the Rangers. Winnipeg, it's been an amazing run for them. The fact that they're in contention for first in their division is remarkable. And they win games, which, if you look at the stats, they wouldn't normally, but they're finding ways to win games right now. And so for Winnipeg, things are pretty good, and I don't see any reason not to have Winnipeg as high up on the board as they are there. Anaheim. Anaheim is right down here. So Anaheim's right down here with Philly and Montreal. They're waiting for the draft lottery already. For Anaheim, I will say this, though. In recent games, they've been playing better. And at least the players on the ice are giving it all their best effort, because you want to make sure you have a job in the NHL next year and all that. Best way to do that is to play well. Even if the team's not very good, you might be playing for your job next year anyways. Arizona is also going here. Now, Arizona's been playing a little bit above their heads, but they're still not going to make the playoffs. We're still looking at one of these teams likely being the one that ends up getting Bedard. It won't just be the 4 that are in this area either. There's another one that I have to add unless I decide they belong in the lump of coal category. And I haven't decided yet, so since I haven't got to them, I'm letting myself think about it. But yeah, Arizona trying to turn coal into a diamond, meaning turn a rough season into, a season we look back on and say, yeah, and then they won the draft lottery and everything else was gravy. Boston, there really isn't anywhere else to put Boston, right? If your team wears black and gold in the NHL, they're probably doing pretty well. Boston, it's been a fantastic run. It's been historic, and it just keeps going. So I haven't done a video where I've gotten into exactly what's gone right with Boston this year, because it's kind of sort of everything. There's been some good luck along the way, sure. But they work hard. There's some good depth there. It's been a fantastic run. I don't know how far it goes, but I'm enjoying it while it lasts. Buffalo. Now, Buffalo I would have had low down at one point. I believe I did the last time out. I'm going to put Buffalo with Seattle. So sorry, Seattle, you guys didn't stay by yourselves for very long. Above the line, I don't know that they make the playoffs, but they're playing better. And that's important, right? The selling your fan base on the hope for the future is tricky in Buffalo because they've heard that storyline before. They remember Eichel. They remember how that rebuild didn't turn out. This one feels different, but again, until they're above the playoff line, until they're playing really important games into March, I don't know that the fans are listening as much as we would hope. But yeah, for Buffalo, I would put them there because they are playing well lately, and I think there's a real chance they could be pushing to at least be in the conversation for a playoff spot once we get to the trade deadline. Calgary. We saw this week Calgary can beat San Jose, which is important. They won back-to-back games there. But overall, I'm going to leave Calgary right here. Yeah, 3 Canadian teams in that region. In fact, that's 4 Canadian teams, 5 Canadian teams below the line. Just got Winnipeg and Toronto above the line. For Calgary, it's one thing to beat San Jose in back-to-back games. I think we need to see what they can do against other competition. Before the break, they've got LA and then they've got Anaheim. So yeah, for Calgary, I've got them below the line in that row, and we'll see how it goes for them. Carolina. Carolina is right up here. So the debate over who's playing the best in the league right now is really fascinating because from one week to the next it does change. So when I do a power rankings video, every week there will be fans of a certain franchise that will be upset, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's Toronto. This week it's Carolina, and Carolina's playing quite well. My guess is the next one will be probably Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota will be next. But for Carolina, it's been an excellent run. Even without Aho, they're winning games. And Kochetkov has been nothing short of a miracle in net. Absolutely amazing run by Kochetkov. And I think he's the real deal. We're going to find out in the short and long term with Kochetkov, as he has, of course, signed that extension with them. Chicago, right down here. Chicago, but it's been brutal. So Chicago I have right here. But I think there's a lot of fans that would like to see them next to Lump and Coal just because of how ugly it's been lately. But we knew that it wasn't going to be great. We knew this team was not going to make the playoffs. And it's kind of just even uglier than we thought it would be, right? I guess kind of like a really bad horror movie where you go, well, this is going to be bad. And then halfway through you go, oh, this is even worse than I thought it was going to be. This doesn't make any sense. So sometimes a hockey season can be a bit like a horror movie. Great to discuss for the Merry Christmas edition. But yeah, that's where Chicago is. There's teams enjoying some Christmas festive cheer, and they're dealing with Freddy Krueger. So there's your Chicago critique. Colorado. Colorado absolutely would be panicked about the injuries, but I would say that because of how the team is playing through those injuries, sure, there's still concern, but I'm going to put them above the line. They're still finding ways to win, as I had expected they would. I have no doubt that Jared Bednar can get the most out of his roster. He has done it for years. We should not be surprised that Colorado is finding a way to get points when they're missing some really key players, big names missing off that roster. So for Colorado, it has been a remarkable run. Again, I understand they're 4-5-1 in their last 10, but they've won a couple of games recently. And they've, again, been doing it without McKinnon, without Landeskog, without Byram. There are a lot of guys who've been missing. And while they're getting a little bit healthier, it is still amazing to see how well they've played. Columbus, I'm stuck. So I'm going to do something different with Columbus. I'm going to put them right in between lump of coal because fans wanted more and they're not happy with the way things are going. And coal to a diamond. Like, well, while we're down here, we might as well go for Bedard. And I know there are Columbus fans I've seen in the comments here who are like, well, you know, if we get Bedard out of it, it'll be worth this. This team was supposed to be better than this. It was not supposed to be this bad. So for Columbus, it has been a remarkable run in the wrong direction. So yeah, they end up right in the middle there. And so we finish with Dallas. Dallas Stars. Now, I had no idea that it was going to end with the Stars, but it makes sense. Christmas star, Merry Christmas and all that. I'm going to put Dallas here, right next to Winnipeg, second row. Dallas, when their scoring is on, it's absolutely amazing. It's incredible. They'll score in bunches, but it can go ice cold, and lately it kind of sort of has. I may be using ice cold because it's cold in here as a terminology, but it works. And there are some concerns I have with Dallas on some level, but they're still, you know, they're up in first place, and they're getting enough wins to keep themselves at first place and near first place when Winnipeg has it, but it looks like these two teams are going to exchange first place back and forth, and I'm fine with that. I do enjoy watching both teams play. I think that when you've got teams that play an up-tempo style and have a lot of good young skill and they're successful, I think that bodes well for the NHL and for entertainment factor, right? So, there you go. My panic index for December 21st of 2022. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.